Yeah, welcome back to Learn More. In the previous lesson, we learned about the meaning of data. We looked at the meaning of data collection, and we looked at the different ways of data collection. We also learned about the instruments used in data collection. We listed some instruments, and we learned about questionnaire as an instrument for data collection. So in the last lesson, I told you that we'll be looking at some other instruments of data collection in this lesson, and I said we'll be looking at observation and interview. So the topic for this lesson is psychological method of data collection. We are looking at observation and interview. So the objective of this lesson is, by the end of this lesson, the learners should be able to, number one, give the meaning of interview. Number two, state conditions for using interview. Number three, state guides for conducting a good interview. Number four, give the meaning of observation. Number five, state the types of observation. Number six, give condition for using observation. So these are the objective of this study. So let's look at interview, because we are looking at interview and observation. So interview is another instrument for data collection which involves the response or answer given to the question that are verbally asked by the interviewer. So in interview, the respondent answers the question verbally. That is, the respondent answers the question verbally, and he answers the question verbally to the interviewer. So it could be like a question and an answer section, where I ask you a question and you give me back the answer. I ask you a question and you give me back the answer. So that's how interview is. So when you are using interview for data collection as a psychologist, your respondent will have to be there physically. You'll be looking at the respondent and you ask the respondent a question, and the respondent give back the answer of that question to you. Then you can note whatever you want to note down. You can continue asking series of questions, so that you can get more information about what you are trying to get. Interview consists of series of structured and unstructured questions and opinion statements that are verbally asked by the interviewer, to be answered verbally also by the respondent. So the two of them are getting answers verbally and asking question verbally. So the interviewer asks the question verbally and the respondent gives back the answer verbally to the interviewer. So let's look at conditions for using interview. Conditions for using interview. So number one, we use interview when we have a fewer respondents. When we have a fewer respondents, it's not like a chorus answer where you have maybe you have 200 people, you have 200 respondents, and you ask a question that, oh, what's your name? And everybody stand up and say, my name is this. That's a chorus answer, and we have so many respondents there. So you use interview when you have a fewer respondents. Let's say you have 2 people as your respondent, you have 1 person as your respondent. You can look into the person to the eye and ask the question to the person, so you could know if the person is trying to tell a lie, or if the person is trying to cheat. You can be able to understand, so you don't give false information when you are being interviewed. So that is why you use it for a fewer respondent. Number 2, we use interview when information is urgently needed. When the information is urgently needed, you needed this information urgently. You have the respondent there with you, and you ask the respondent the question for the respondent to get the answers back to you. So you needed this information quickly and very fast. So we use interview when information is urgently needed. And number 3, we use interview when information about emotions are required. Information about emotion, they are required. Emotion, you want to understand the state of emotion of a person, you can use interview to get that information. Now there are some guidelines for conducting a good interview. Don't forget we did interview and we also looked at observation. So now let's look at some guidelines for conducting a good interview. Number 1, avoid much grammar. Make the sentence simple and self-explanatory. Use simple words that the person could be able to understand, because you don't know the level of the person's education. Number 2, define all technical words. Try to define the technical words so that the person can understand better, and your information should be very nice. So number 3, avoid asking irritating questions. Don't ask questions that are irrelevant. Don't ask questions that are irritating. Ask questions that are reasonable. And number 4, avoid lengthy question. Avoid lengthy question. You can use a simple sentence question. Just one sentence is okay to ask your question. Don't ask question and you're adding comma, comma, comma. It's somehow. So ask simple question. You could use simple sentence in asking your question. And the next, avoid leading question. Avoid question that could lead to other question. You're asking a question that could lead to another question. Those kind of question now that when they ask you, it leads to another question. So don't ask those kind of question. Just go direct. Ask direct question. So we have looked at interview. Let's look at observation. Observation is a process of collecting information whereby informations are gotten by carefully watching or observing events or people while expected attributes are being manifested. So you are watching people, you are watching event, so you could get an expected attribute which could be manifested. Observation is said to be the best instrument for data collection because it collects first-hand information and it is not falsified. So in my definition of observation, I said it is a process of collecting information whereby information are gotten by carefully observing, by carefully watching events or people while the expected attributes are being manifested. So there is an expected attribute that you want to get as an information from that observation. So when you look at those people as they manifest that attribute, you capture it and you get it down. So, and I said that observation is one of the best methods for data collection because it delivers first-hand information. First-hand information. And information is not falsified. Let's say, for example, you wanted to get information about a patient, the emotions of a patient, and the patient is with you there. So the person is sitting down and the person is crying. So you could directly tell that this person is in a bad mood. Directly. You are observing the person. You are seeing the person. So somebody cannot just come and give you a false information that the person is happy. Because you can see the person. You can see the person. So that is why observation is one of the best instruments to be used rather than maybe a questionnaire. You know, in questionnaire somebody might just tick whatever might just tick whatever and give the information to you, and you'll be calculating and using, and you'll be analyzing information that is false. But observation is a very good tool. Observation is used for collecting information that is situation specific, like interest, like love, like practical, like competencies. So if you want to measure interest, you want to observe love, practical observation, or you want to observe the competency of somebody in doing something, you use observation. Observation is one good method that you can use. So let's look at types of observation. We have direct observation and we have indirect observation. Now, direct observation occurs when the observer is present in the scene of the information. When the observer is present in the scene of the information. You want to observe a patient and the patient is sitting down and the patient is crying. You are observing the emotion of that patient. You are present in the scene of that information. So that is a direct observation. Indirect observation, the observer picks every information by carefully watching, writing, or recording it manually or electronically. So you could record, you could write down, you could get the information manually or electronically. So let's look at indirect observation. Indirect observation takes place when the needed information is recorded with electrical or mechanical device and later being played for assessment. So it's different from direct observation. Direct observation, you are there, you are looking at it, you are seeing what's going on, you are getting the information firsthand. But in indirect observation, the scene has taken place, it was recorded, maybe with a recorder or with a camera, and you got the information from what has been recorded from the camera. So that is indirect. Although you are observing, but you are not there when it happened. Although you are observing, but you were not part of that information. So that is indirect observation. So there are some conditions for observing. Conditions for observing. Number one condition for observing is when first-hand information is needed. Now, before you say you want to use observation, you would know that first-hand information is needed here. We don't need to falsify an information. We don't need falsified information. So that is when you can use observation. Number two, when it is possible to manipulate the subject to manifest information needed. So you use observation when you know that the information could be easily manipulated. The information you get, when you know that it could be easily manipulated, you have to use observation. And number three, when the information is situation specific. When the information is situation specific. So there are some conditions by which you should use observation. Not just any other instrument for data collection, but observation. Okay, in summary, we have learned about psychological method of data collection, and we looked at observation and interview. We looked at observation and interview. So in the next lesson, we will also be looking at same psychological method of data collection, and we will be looking at case study and clinical method. We'll be looking at case study and clinical method. See you in the next lesson.